Hello, this short webinar is going to take you through the assembly that you had on effective revision. We talked to you about how to get the most out of your revision so that all the time and effort that you put in results in you doing well in your exams. How many times have you spent hours revising for a test only to find you didn't do as well as you hoped? That means you were not using effective revision strategies. We're here to support you to ensure that you know how to revise in a way that will mean that you do well. The effort that you put in, if you follow this guidance, will have an impact and you will get good results. There are many ways to revise and indeed many ways not to revise. We've chosen some key effective techniques that we have seen the impact of time and time again. So we know that you're already aware of some really important things like getting enough sleep, not having your phone next to you during revision, drinking lots of water, getting some fresh air and exercise. So let's assume that you're doing all of those things. You've written a clear revision timetable, chunking up your time to focus on different subjects and different topics within those subjects. You sit down somewhere nice and quiet, no music. What should you do? Well, let's start by considering what you shouldn't do. Rereading your notes or reading a revision guide. Highlighting your notes or revision guide. Copying out your notes 100,000 times, maybe in different colours. These so-called revision strategies have little or no impact unless you happen to have a photographic memory and can look at something once and instantaneously remember it. Reading, highlighting and copying do not make you think. They are not difficult. They do not feel hard. Quite frankly, they're a bit boring. Anything you do that falls under these headings means that it is not going to help you in your exam. Unless you find it a bit difficult and really have to think about what you're doing, your revision simply will not work. So what are these strategies? We're going to split these strategies into 3 different sections, and we're going to share these with you that are proven to work from research, and we're also going to explain how to do them properly. Remember, it should feel difficult and it should make you think, otherwise there's no point. So the first strategies we're going to talk about is how to consolidate your learning. So really understand what you're supposed to learn, understand your notes. The next part is about self-testing, so actually learn it. Think of an actor who learns lines for a play. They don't just read stuff over and over again and then the play is magically in their brain and they can say all their lines when they're acting it. They actually have to test themselves on it and learn it. The final section then is practice. So once you've consolidated your understanding, you understand what it is you need to know, you've tested yourself, you've learned it, how do you then apply that to your exam style questions? So this is what we're going to go through now.
Okay, so let's look at consolidating. Now, by this, what I mean is you've been in your lessons, you've learned some things, bits and pieces. Some of that's in your head and sort of makes sense. Some of it's in your head and is a little bit fuzzy, perhaps doesn't make much sense. Some of it's fallen out of your head and it's just stuck in your folders and doesn't make sense at all. So what we need to do is to get it all nice and crystal clear in your head so it makes sense, so you have clarity over what you've learned. So one way of doing this is mind mapping. We'll start with the brain dump mind map. So what you do with a brain dump mind map is you select a certain topic that you've studied recently. So don't choose a subject like maths or biology or history, but choose a topic within that subject. So once you've selected your topic, then from memory, you write down everything you can about that topic. So take a blank piece of paper, put the topic in the middle, and write down everything you could possibly remember about that topic. Do not use your notes at this point. Just do it from memory. Okay, you can come to your notes later. So do it from memory. It might look a little bit something like this, and as you're drawing your mind map, you might connect things. Oh yeah, I remember that now. That connects to that bit. Oh yeah, and this bit comes in here. Yeah, doing it all from memory, the brain dump, getting down everything you know. Then when you've done, when the well is dry, so to speak, and you've got down everything you can possibly remember, then is your chance then to get your notes out and have a look and see which bits you forgot, which bits did you get a little bit right, a little bit wrong, which bits did you miss out altogether, that sort of thing, and then make amendments then to your brain dump mind map. So that's the brain dump process. It's important to go from memory first, then notes second. Right, once you've got that brain dump on a piece of paper, it's probably a little bit scruffy, a little bit untidy, a little bit perhaps disorganized, destructured, but that's fine, okay? Unstructured doesn't matter at this point. But what we need to do is then go to the next form of mind map, which is a structured mind map. So now we need to give your brain dump mind map a bit of structure, organize it. Now, how to do this I'll give you a few examples of what we could do, but you're going to use sort of the brain dump and give it structure. So what you could do is put subheadings. So look at your brain dump mind map, get a new piece of paper and pick out some subheadings from your brain dump mind map. So it could be things like keywords. You might jot some keywords on a blank piece of paper. You might go 2 categories, strengths and weaknesses. You might do other 2 categories, compare, contrast. You might do some sort of timeline, some sort of process. Once you've jotted those little subheadings on your new blank piece of paper to do with that topic that you've just done, then off you go and you have another go at doing a mind map, but this time with a bit of structure. So the same topic as the brain dump mind map, same topic, new sheet, but this time with a bit of structure. And again, once you've finished annotating and doing your mind map with a bit of structure, then you check your notes once again, and you find out anything you've missed or anything you want to. So for example, some subheadings. Here is a play, I don't know if you've done this in English, but a play, Inspector Calls. From my brain dump mind map, I've gone, okay, here's some keywords that I've pulled out my brain dump. I put them on a new piece of paper, and off I go and I annotate those from memory. That's a nice little thing to do. I could even then draw connections between some of these. Again, from memory, not using notes. Or, history example here, prohibition, the topic of prohibition. I could go strengths and weaknesses. Why did it work? Why didn't it work? But again, from memory. So I'm giving a bit of structure, a bit of extra thought now to the topic itself. Here's a compare and contrast, very simple, the electromagnetic spectrum, infrared and microwaves. I can annotate what are infrared, annotate around there, what are microwaves, annotate around there for memory. Then in the middle, what have they got in common? What are the similarities? There's a nice little example there. And again, these things are so simple. I've obviously typed them here, but you to draw these with hand. You know, all you need is a pen and a piece of paper, and you can create these yourself. Or you could do a little flow diagram, little process. You know, that could be like a timeline, that could be a process that happens. I've given an example here of, physics reaching terminal velocity, what happens, and I've annotated along. But again, very simple, not hard to organize. But what I'm doing here is I'm using the stuff I've just brain dumped first of all, and now I'm giving it a bit of structure. And hopefully in doing that, I'm consolidating and it becomes a little.
So you've consolidated your notes, you've consolidated your understanding, and you know what it is that you need to learn. What I'm going to talk to you now is about actually some effective ways to actually learn that. And this is through self-testing. So one way of self-testing is to use flashcards. Now this is something that you may well have used before, so hopefully we're going to show you how to make sure that you use them really, really properly. So you should get your notes, look at everything you need to learn, look at your consolidations, and actually decide what is it that you need to learn and write questions for those things. On your flashcard, you should have a question on one side and an answer on the other. Do not just copy out your notes, because we've already talked about that isn't effective revision. So you've got a question on one side, an answer on the other. Keep it simple, maybe use colours. Okay, there are lots of ready-made ones out there as well. I know for maths, you can get some off the Corbett Maths website if you want to use them. But you should have these questions of things that you don't already know. So for example, it might be you think, oh, I always forget how to find the area of a triangle. So on one side of your card, it would say, how do you find the area of a triangle? And on the other side, you would have the formula for it. It might be in another subject, so maybe you have to learn in PE, what are the 2 bones in the front of your arm and your forearm? And actually then on the other side, you'd have the answer, the radius and the ulna. So you have all these questions and then you can use that to test yourself. So you go through your stack of cards, ask yourself the question and try from memory to answer it. You can then turn the card over and see if you're right. When you're using this, you could also get somebody else to test you, and it's really important that you shuffle them every time you use them. Otherwise, what your brain does is it just learns the order of answers, and you don't necessarily actually learn which answer matches with which question. If you didn't want to do this on flashcards, you could actually just write a list of questions on a piece of paper and write your answers on another list. Again, then, this is a ready-made test that you could use yourself. You could get somebody else to ask you. But again, really importantly, make sure you shuffle the order if you use it a couple of times. And make sure your questions are not things that you already know. It should feel difficult when you first do it. It should feel hard. Okay, you shouldn't get them all right the first time you go through it. And that's okay, that means you're learning things. So every time you do more, you get more questions right. Don't cheat. Okay, if you get it wrong to start with, that means you've picked good questions, then start learning it and you will get them right. Okay, so the last thing we're going to talk to you then is about is practice. So we've consolidated our understanding of our notes. We know what it is that we need to learn. We've then done some self-testing and we've learnt those things. So how do we now practice this and apply it so that we're going to do well in the exam?
Okay, so elaboration is a good way of practicing. What do I mean by that? Well, it's taking, you've done your brain dump, you've structured it in some way, you've done your self-testing, you think you know your stuff, right? You think it's lodged in your brain now and you've really learned it. Well, now's the chance to elaborate. So you can elaborate in a number of ways. What I mean is choose the topic. So say it was prohibition and history, for example. You give your notes to somebody, a friend or somebody at home when you test, and you go, right, I'm going to tell you everything I know about prohibition. You elaborate, you talk. What do I know about it? And off you go. Here's the strengths, here's the weaknesses, here's when it happened, here's what it's all about. Compare, contrast, whatever it may be. You elaborate, you talk, you put it into full sort of sentences, elaborating about it. Your friend then can look at your notes and go, okay, great, you got this bit right, you missed this bit out, how about this bit? So you could do it verbally. You could also do it in paragraph form. So go, okay, I'm going to put my notes away, now I'm going to write a nice paragraph explaining what I know. Again, it's important the notes aren't there at this point. And elaborating, giving it full sentences. So elaborating it helps it sort of, well, it's a little bit of consolidation as well, but it's a good way of practicing articulating your thinking.
And the next way to practice, and this is definitely useful in many subjects, is to do past papers. But how do you do them effectively? Make it as real life as possible. Make it as similar to the actual exam as possible. Don't have a past paper in front of you and all your notes and take 3 days to complete it. Actually make it like a proper exam to really see where you are and how much you know. Set a timer for how long you're going to spend on it. If it's not a full paper, if it's half a paper, set yourself half the time. Try and complete it without your notes or additional support. Okay, that's what you're going to have to do on the real day, so make sure that's what you do when you practice. Use the correct equipment. If you're doing a maths paper or a science paper, use a proper calculator. Don't use your phone. You're not going to be allowed to use your phone in the real exam, so get your calculator, practice using a calculator while you're doing a past paper. Make sure you mark it honestly. So when you look through and actually looking through the mark scheme and you're marking your past paper, make sure you're really honest with yourself about actually, did you really get those marks? Did you really get it right or not? Anything you didn't get right, that's then the gaps in your knowledge. So that's when you go back to the beginning of the cycle, go back to that consolidation phase, relearn things, retest yourself, and then come and have another go at the past paper. So let's summarise. Revision needs to be difficult, otherwise it's not working. Strategies such as rereading, copying and highlighting will not help you do well and are a waste of your revision time. The strategies that we've shared here with you today, and in particular, what we've told you about how to do these strategies properly, will help you to succeed. Revision is not just about jumping straight to past papers. You need to learn the knowledge first, then use the past paper as a real life practice. If you need any further support or guidance, talk to your form teacher, talk to your teachers, talk to the achievement team. We are all here to support you to do the best that you can, but you are the one that actually has to do it. You have to go away now, finalise your revision timetable and put the effort in. Imagine that feeling looking at your results in the summer and you've got what you wanted. These are the first steps to that happening. The hard work will be worth it. Good luck.